Good morning, everybody. Just checking you can hear me. If you just want to put a comment in the chat, just to let me know you can hear me all right. Great. Thanks, Elena. Thanks, Claudia. Okay. We might just get straight into it today. So, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the September webinar in our 2019 HR webinar series. If you want to check out any of the previous webinars, they are up on our website at the moment. My name is Summer Adams and I'm one of the Member Services and Communications Coordinators for MPAQ, and today I'll just be moderating the session and keeping an eye on your questions. So today's webinar will cover the employer obligations and things you need to consider when looking at employing either an apprentice or just a normal employee. So whether you've never employed somebody before or whether you've employed hundreds of people before, hopefully Kim has some good tips for us today. So before I introduce Kim and hand it over to her, so just to run through a couple of things for those that haven't joined us before. So there is a chat function on the right-hand side of the screen where you can type in your questions. Any questions that come in, I'll try to jump in and get Kim to answer those straight away. Otherwise, we'll come back to all the questions at the end of the session. So just want to say thank you to our presenter, Kim, who's here today. So Kim's the Senior HR Advisor for MPAQ, and I'm now going to hand everything over to Kim. Thanks, Kim.
Thanks, Summer. So we will get straight into it now as well. So some of you may find, you will already know some of the things that I'm going to go through today. So what we're going to be looking at is what you need to do prior to employing staff, issues that are specific just to apprentices, what documents you should have in place prior to employing someone. And then we'll look at I'll answer any questions that you have. But like Summer said, if you have any questions as we're going through, just type your question in and Summer will interrupt and we'll go through the question together. Okay, let's get started. So what do you need to do prior to employing staff? To ensure that your business grows, you need to hire staff. Before hiring, you must understand what all of your obligations are as an employer. And today we're just going to be looking at employees. So we're not going to be discussing subcontractors at all. This is all based at just employing employees. So you can have full-time employees, you can have part-time employees, you can employ someone as a casual, but there are certain time frames about employing casual staff. You can also employ trainees or apprentices, so we'll have a look at the differences with those as well. What are your obligations? So these are some of the things that I'm going to cover in a little bit of detail. These are the obligations that you need to do prior to employing staff. So you need to register with the Australian Taxation Office for pay as you go. You'll need to register for superannuation. You'll need to work out what award you're going to be employing your staff under. So most people in the plumbing industry would be looking at the Plumbing and Fire Sprinklers Award. However, you may have employees under the Building and Construction Award, and you may have employees under the Clerk's Private Sector Award. So the award goes through the pay rates, leave, employee entitlements, and termination of employment. Here in Queensland, you will need to insure your staff through work cover for any injuries that at work. So what we will do is go through each of these topics in more detail. Pay as you go, or PAYG, as most people would know. This is where you deduct tax from your employee's pay each week, and then you have to pay that to the Australian Taxation Office. So before you can employ staff, you need to register as a pay as you go employer. And here's some of the ways that you can actually do that. So you can contact the ATO on the Small Business Hotline, 132866, and there is a facility to leave a call back for them to call you back as well if there is a wait on that line. There's also an online business portal as well, so you can register as a business online and you can do your registration all online through the business portal. You will need to register for single touch payroll from the 1st of July this year. All businesses that employ employees, it's mandatory for them to register for single touch payroll. They do have, however, if you have 1 to 4 employees and you don't have an accountant, the Australian Taxation Office offers a service for $10 a month where they will make sure that your payroll system is in line with the ATO and works with the single touch payroll. So if you need more information on registering with the ATO or in relation to single touch payroll, you can either speak to your accountant or you can contact the ATO on the 132866 number. Superannuation. So the minimum superannuation guarantee payment is currently 9.5% of an employee's ordinary time earnings. So ordinary hours of work under the Fair Work Act are 38 hours a week. You only pay superannuation, the 9.5%, on the gross figure for the employee's 38 hours per week. If they do overtime, you don't actually pay superannuation on the overtime. Under the Australian taxation legislation, you must pay super contributions at least 4 times per financial year, and you must report your super electronically. There's a standard format and it needs to go through the super stream section at the ATO. So again, if you need more information about SuperStream, you would need to speak to either your accountant or the Australian Taxation Office. It is mandatory to pay superannuation. So when is super payable? To be eligible for superannuation payments, your employees must be earning $450 per month. Now that is a gross figure. So unless you've got an employee that's working as a casual 1 day a week, most employees will be eligible for superannuation payments. However, there are different criteria for when your employees are under 18 years of age. So if an employee is under 18 years, they must be working at least 30 hours a week to qualify for superannuation payments. Therefore, if you have a school-based apprentice or a school-based trainee working for you, they may not qualify for superannuation until they become a full-time employee. If you have any questions in relation as to whether your employees are eligible for superannuation or not, please give me a call here at the office or send me an email and I'll go through that with you. Superannuation is payable also on annual leave payments, including annual leave loading, any bonuses, any allowances that you pay the employee. So for example, if you're paying travel and fares, or if you're paying a tool allowance, superannuation is payable on all of those allowances as well. Again, if in doubt, please give me a call and I'll go through that with you. So awards, as I've mentioned previously, most people in our industry are covered by the Plumbing and Fire Sprinklers Award. It's important to remember that under this award, there is no exemption rate. For example, there is a misconception out there that if you call a position a salaried position, that you're no longer bound by the award. Unfortunately, that isn't the case. If you have employees that are working on the tools or they're a labourer under the Plumbing and Fire Sprinklers Award, there is no exemption rate. So by just calling them a salaried position, you can't trade out of the terms and conditions of employment under that award. I also provide information and advice on a number of other awards that may cover our members. So for example, the Clerks Private Sector Award, the Retail Award, the Building and Construction Award. I do also have some members that have cleaners that come in and clean their premises, which they actually pay. So I can give you information on any of the cleaning awards. We've also have a member that employs a mechanic, and I have the information available for that award as well. So if in doubt, please just give me a call and I will go through that with you. So what does an award cover? The award will go through award coverage. So for example, with the Plumbing and Fire Sprinklers Award, they cover employees who are employed in the plumbing industry, including fire sprinklers. It's also good to note as well, there is no junior rates under the Plumbing and Fire Sprinklers Award. I'm quite often asked, we have a 16-year-old that wants some work experience, so we're going to employ him for the school holidays. What rate do we pay him? Unfortunately, whether the person is 16 years of age or 50 years of age, there is only the one rate for labourers under the award. Depending on their experience in the industry, there's level 1A, level 1B, level 1C. So just bear in mind, if you are putting juniors on, there is no junior rates under this award. Yes, Summer?
Sorry, we just had a question about travel from Jason. So he just said, if the apprentice lives close to a job, can you ask them to meet you there rather than where we would normally start? And then he did follow it up as well with, do you have to pay travel?
Unfortunately, under the Plumbing and Fire Sprinklers Award, if the employee travels directly from home to a job site or directly from a job site to home, they are entitled to the daily travel. If they're using their own vehicle, they are entitled to the daily fares as well. So in this instance, if you asked him to meet you at the job site, you would have to pay the daily fares and the daily travel if he's using his own vehicle. So we'll go back to the award. It covers the types of employment and termination of employment. It also covers the minimum wages and related matters, so looking at any allowances, the daily fares and travel, and things like that. It also covers the hours of work. So under the Fair Work Act, the maximum number of ordinary hours an employee can work is 38 hours a week. So it's very important that if you're doing an employment contract for your employees and you want to work 40 hours a week, you need to have the wording in your contract that your ordinary hours of work are 38 hours a week plus 2 reasonable additional hours. That way you only pay superannuation and annual leave and sick leave on the 38 hours a week. The award also covers overtime and penalties, so when overtime is payable and what rates are payable, the same with your penalties as well. So under the Plumbing and Fire Sprinklers Award, the ordinary spread of hours is 7 a.m. till 6 p.m. However, if the majority of workers agree, the ordinary spread of hours can be from 6 a.m. till 6 p.m. Monday to Friday. Any work outside of these hours will automatically be classed as overtime and will incur penalty rates. The award also covers leave, so you have your annual leave. There's also 17.5% annual leave loading under the award. So if you do have an employment contract and you're paying well above the award, to contract out of paying the annual leave loading, you need to have that in writing. So how you would word that in your contract would be your hourly rate of pay, for example, is $35 an hour, then in brackets, inclusive of all applicable allowances and annual leave loading. So unless you have in writing that their annual leave loading is included in their hourly rate, you cannot contract out of paying annual leave loading. The award also covers public holidays, what rates apply on a public holiday. Under the Plumbing and Fire Sprinklers Award, you can actually agree to change the public holiday. So for example, here in the MPAQ office, because we cover the whole of Queensland, we have a skeleton staff that is available for the Ekka Show holiday. So what we do is they come in and work that day as a normal day. They take another day as a designated public holiday for that period. And that's okay under the Plumbing and Fire Sprinklers Award. If you're employing staff, here in Queensland, it's compulsory to insure them against workplace accidents. So WorkCover Queensland Accident Insurance Policy will cover the cost of work-related injuries and is covered under the workers' compensation legislation. It is mandatory for you to register with WorkCover here in Queensland. So to register for WorkCover, you can either call them directly on 1300 362 128, or you can actually apply directly online. And I've put that link in the PowerPoint presentation so that you can click on that if you wanted to register online. WorkCover is only for work-related injuries or illnesses. If an employee is injured outside of work, so for example, they play football at the weekend or they may go motorbike riding, anything outside of work is covered by the personal carer's leave or sick leave as most people call it. We'll just look at employing an apprentice now. So you can employ an apprentice in the following ways. They can either be a full-time apprentice, a part-time apprentice. Yes, Summer.
Sorry. Dan, or it's possibly Jess, had a question. Can the employer pick the substitute day off for the employee, or do they need to pick the alternative day for the public holidays?
It's negotiation between both parties. So, for example, here in Brisbane, for the Ekka public holiday, a number of so Logan City Council has a different day, Redlands has a different day, Moreton Bay has a different day. So, to ensure you have coverage of your area for that particular day, you could ask employees. Who wants to work on the designated public holiday and have an alternative day off. So it's a bit of negotiation between both parties to ensure that your business is covered for that period of time. Does that answer the question for you? So we'll go back to employing the apprentice. So as I said, you can have a full-time, a part-time, or a school-based apprentice. So once you decide to employ an apprentice, you'll need to contact an Australian apprenticeship network provider. So the network provider is actually contracted by the government to assist employers and potential apprentices throughout the apprenticeship process. So what they can actually do is they provide you with support throughout the apprenticeship. Some of them may help you find an apprentice and a registered training organisation. Particularly with plumbing, it's mainly TAFE or Skills Tech, or we do have the Service Trades College as well, where you can send your plumbing apprentice. They come out with the training contract. They sit both the employer and the employee down. They go through what the training contract is, and both parties actually sign that training contract. It's just important to note that the training contract is only for the training of the apprentice. It has nothing to do with the employment of the apprentice. So it's not an employment contract. All it's stating is that you're going to take this person on and you're going to train them for the period of their apprenticeship. The network provider will also go through your eligibility for incentives. So I'm not sure if everyone read the recent notification. The government has increased incentives for particular apprenticeships, and plumbing is actually one of those. They've also decreased the age limit for the mature aged apprenticeship incentive. So previous to the 1st of July this year, if you employed someone 25 years or older as a mature aged apprentice, after they had been with you for 12 months, you're entitled to a $4,000 incentive payment. As from the 1st of July this year, the government has now reduced that to 21 years of age. So if you employ an apprentice who is 21 years or older, after they've been with the business for 12 months, you're eligible for the $4,000 incentive. The network provider will also provide you with advice and support during the apprenticeship. Most of the network providers also now have a mentor on board, as the government is finding that most apprentices drop out in their first or second year of their apprenticeship. So we now have mentors that are available through the network providers that will come out and speak with you and your apprentice on a regular basis to ensure that your apprentice actually completes their apprenticeship. Here are some of the network providers that MPAQ has worked with. So we have MEGT and their website and contact details. Busy at Work are very proactive and have assisted a number of MPAQ members. This is their website and phone number. There's also MRail Limited, and Apprenticeship Support Australia Proprietary Limited. So any one of these network providers can assist you in signing up an apprentice. Or if you have an apprentice on board at the moment, you may be having issues with them, you need to contact both the network provider to come out and give support to you, and also please contact me here at MPAQ and I can assist you in that process. So an apprentice is treated exactly the same as a normal employee. So you will need to go through your warning process if you're going to terminate the apprentice for not following direction, for not, they may not be able to grasp what you're trying to teach them. So if you're going through and performance managing them, you need to treat them the same as a normal employee. I have noticed an increase in unfair dismissals that have been brought about by apprentices. So if you're looking at a performance management process, please give me a call and I'll talk you through that. So what do you do when you've found a potential employee? These are the steps that I would recommend that you would take when onboarding an employee. So offer the employee either a letter of offer or an employment contract. And we do have employment contracts available on the MPAQ website. If you log in as a member and go to the shop and scroll down, you'll be able to find the employment contracts available there. If you're wanting to just do a letter of offer, which is just a 1 or 2 page letter to the employee, please contact me and I can send you some templates for those as well. It is mandatory under the Fair Work legislation to give the employee the Fair Work information statement. This is a 2-page information statement that Fair Work puts out for the employee, and you must give that to them on commencement of employment. I have put the link on the PowerPoint. Otherwise, if you contact me, I can send you out a copy of that statement. It's recommended to have an employee detail form. So you will need to gather the employee's personal details, so their date of birth, their address, their contact number, their bank details so that you can pay them correctly. And one of the most important things is having an emergency contact. So if anything happens to the person at work and you need to contact a next of kin, you need to have an emergency contact in place to let them know what is actually going on. Or you may have an employee that doesn't come into work, you can't contact them by phone, they're not responding, and you're concerned about their welfare. You can then contact that emergency contact to see what is going on. You will need the employee to complete a tax file declaration form. Now, these are available online at the ATO website, which is www.ato.gov.au. You'll also have to have your employee complete a superannuation standard of choice form. So if the employee already has a complying superannuation fund that they have had other employers contributing to, they can elect to have their superannuation from you sent to that superannuation fund as well. So you've offered someone employment, today's their first day of work. These are some of the things that you would need to go through on an employee's first day. So show them where they're working, introduce them to other team members if you do have other employees. Give the employee a list of key contacts. So for example, if they're not able to work, not able to work today due to sickness, who do they call? If they're running late, if there's been an accident and they're stuck in traffic, you would need to give them some sort of contact numbers so that they can let someone know what's actually happening. Explain the hours of work to them. Show them where the amenities are, so your kitchen, bathroom, workshops, etc. Discuss workplace health and safety with the employee. So responsibilities, risk identification, assessment and control, accident and incident reporting. So what happens if they hurt themselves at work? Do you have an accident and incident report form that you need them to complete? First aid, so do you have a first aid kit? Do you have a first aid officer? If the employee is going to be given a work vehicle, do you have a first aid kit available in that work vehicle? So these are the sorts of things you would need to go through with them. Obviously, talk to them about work cover as well. Explain what the company's dress code is, and we do have some draft policies available here at MPAQ for both office staff and trade staff. So if you would like a draft policy, please let me know and I can send that out to you. If the employee is a smoker, you would need to explain to them um, if you have a smoking area or if they need to go off the premises to have a cigarette. Go through what your smoking policy is. There's no such thing as a smoking break. If the employee chooses to have a cigarette during their 10-minute break in the morning or during their lunch break, that is up to them, but there's no such thing as a smoker's break. I'd also recommend that you discuss the following topics with them. So what are your company policies and procedures? Do they complete timesheets, or do you have an online system for reporting guidelines so that you know when they actually commence work and when they cease work? What sort of documents do they need to complete? When do they need to complete them? Who they need to actually give them to, and those sorts of things. If you're giving them a company vehicle, do you have a motor vehicle policy that covers, if they're in an accident and it's seen to be their fault, you may want to be able to charge them the excess on your insurance policy. So you will need to have a motor vehicle policy in place that covers those things. What happens if they go through a red light camera? If they actually get a speeding fine? Things like that, you will need to have some sort of motor vehicle policy, which we have draft ones here available as well. Mobile phones. Do you have a mobile phone policy? Are they using their own mobile for work purposes? Are you issuing a work mobile phone? What is your policy around the use of that mobile phone? Do you issue them with an iPad or a tablet? Do you have a social media policy in place? What can they actually access on that iPad or tablet? So these are some of the things that you need to think about and put in place. Most of you would have expensive tools that your employees need to use from time to time. What happens if they lose that tool or they break that tool? Do you have a policy in place for recovery of expenses? You may want them to pay partial payment for the replacement of that particular tool or piece of equipment. You may want to be able to deduct that from their wages. So these are more things that you need to think about and you need to have in place in the workplace. There should also be a run through with their manager about what's expected of them, a familiarisation of the workplace. What can I do to help you, or what can MPAQ do to help you? So My position is here to assist members prior to employing employees, advertising on job boards. So, for example, several of our members have asked me to advertise for employees on Seek, and other job boards. Obviously, we would on charge any costs that are involved in that, but that's a service that we offer as well. I would look at shortlisting of potential employees. I've even sat in on interviews with potential employees for members that were employing for the first time. I provide information and advice about employment contracts, letters of offer, policy and procedures. So if I don't have a template or a draft policy and procedure, I can do one of those for you and send it out to you. I also help with information on awards, so interpretation of awards. We have the current wage sheets that are available to members online. I have information sheets that cover most of our most common things. So, for example, daily fares and travel, meal allowances, different types of employment, any of the most common issues that I'm asked. We usually have an information sheet which is currently available on the MPAQ website. However, you will need to log in to the members only area to be able to access those. I also give advice and assistance with performance management. I have a number of templates that I can send out to you, which includes warning letters, termination letters, performance management plans and things like that. Information and advice on termination. So it's really important that you follow the legislation if you're going to terminate someone. So please give me a call so that we can discuss it and look at the steps that you need to take prior to terminating someone. I also represent members in unfair dismissal and underpayment of wages. So that's all included as part of your MPAQ membership. If you do receive an unfair dismissal application or you do receive notification from Fair Work that someone is stating that they were underpaid wages, please contact me and I'll go through that information with you. So looking at information about apprentices. Prior to putting on an apprentice, please ensure that you have adequate work for the apprentice. So please ensure that you're going to be able to employ them for 38 hours a week if you're wanting to put on a full-time apprentice. If you send them home early, you actually still have to pay them the 38 hours for that week. So look at how your work is going and make sure that you have the adequate work for a full-time apprentice. If not, I would suggest employing a part-time apprentice or a school-based apprentice in that instance. You can always increase from part-time to full-time and vice versa, but look at what work you have available prior to putting someone on. Ensure you'll have 100% supervision for the apprentice. So as a person is doing their apprenticeship, their work must be supervised at all times. So if you only have one tradesman, you wouldn't put on 3 or 4 apprentices, because that one tradesman's not going to be able to adequately supervise all of those apprentices at the same time unless they're all going to the same job, which wouldn't really work for your business because you can't actually charge out the 4 apprentices and the tradesman for the one particular job. MPAQ has a document available which can help when doing an interview process with apprentices. It's an aptitude assessment for plumbing industry. So this goes through and assesses potential apprentices. There's spelling questions, comprehension, maths questions, problem solving, and it's to assess the applicant's reading, writing and problem solving, and it's available free from MPAQ. Just send me an email or give me a call and I'll send that out to you. Some of the do's and don'ts. So please ensure you've registered for PAYG, pay as you go tax, and work cover prior to taking on any employees. When advertising, ensure you're not breaching any legislation when you're wording your job ad. So you can't have in your ad that you're only going to take male applicants or you're only going to take female applicants. However, you can word that you're looking for a mature person. And those sorts of things. So it's all in the wording of the ad. If you want me to have a look at your ad prior to advertising, please send it through and I'll have a look through it for you. Don't ask any personal questions during an interview. So unless the person is applying for apprenticeship, don't ask their age, don't ask their marital status or any family responsibilities. A potential employee can take an action through the Anti-Discrimination Commission if they feel they were terminated due to the interview questions. Don't ask, have you ever been on work cover? Although you can ask, do you have any injuries or illnesses that may hinder you being able to do this job? So again, it's all in the wording. If you're after some sample questions to ask during interviews, please let me know and I'll send you out a list. Issue employment contracts or letters of offer for all of your employees. Should an employee make an application for unfair dismissal or an underpayment of wages, if you don't have anything in writing, the Commissioner will try to conciliate the matter and reach some sort of agreement. They won't believe one person over the other, so it's always best to have everything in writing. So if you issue an employment contract or a letter of offer, that's there to protect yourself as a business and to also protect the employee. Make sure that you have policy and procedures in place, and again, these would need to be in writing so that you do have evidence should you need that later on. Always speak to your accountant, in particular about single touch payroll and the super stream. And again, you can always contact MPAQ for advice and assistance. Okay, thanks very much everyone for today. Now I'm not sure if Summer is back online. She's just brought in that she doesn't have any sound at the moment. So I'll just see Summer's come in to where I am to see if there's any questions coming through. Okay, it doesn't look like there's any questions. So what we'll actually do is Summer will send through a copy of the slides that we've had for the presentation today, and she'll also notify you when the video is available for this webinar. We also have these webinars coming up next. So Tuesday, the 24th of September, we have the minimum financial requirements, which is going to be delivered by Exact Accounting. 15th of October, the importance of employment contracts. 12th of November is policy and procedures. And the 3rd of December, we'll look at introducing performance reviews. Thanks very much, everyone. Alina has just sent through a question. If an employee swaps the public holiday for another day off, do you put those hours for the public holiday in time in lieu for when you do pay do the pay run, or should it show on their pay slip as being paid for the public holiday? So if you are substituting a day for a public holiday, the day that the employee works on that public holiday is just treated as a normal day of work. So it would just show as ordinary hours of work. When the employee is taking the substitute day, it would just show as 7.6 hours public holiday on their pay slip. Thanks, Alina. Thanks very much, everyone. We'll see you at the next webinar. Thank you.